Right, the mission and vision of PDI and Literacy First is to accelerate student achievement. Basically our goal is that 85 to 95% of students will be reading on or above grade level after the implementation of this 3-year process. Sometimes some schools take on this 3-year process and it's longer than that. But it's one thing to say that you have a mission and a vision, and another thing to bring it into reality. And the piece that makes Literacy First so very unique is the personal attention that the leadership team receives. It's all based on research best practices. And the fact that we focus in on that leadership team, we can, with the Literacy First process, we can work with effective instructional leaders and help them become great instructional leaders. We can work with aspiring leaders. We can work with new principals. We can help managers, good building managers, become instructional leaders. The product, the end product of our school system is effective teaching and learning. And where there's effective teaching taking place, one expects learning to occur. And we have documentation that that happens. Based upon the work of people like David Berliner and Marzano, and I could keep naming names, but helping instructional leaders understand what it means to make a mission a reality. When we go in and begin to work implementing a Literacy First process, we're physically there. Every good instructional leader needs a coach. We provide that coach for that instructional leader. We're walking in and out of classrooms because it's one thing to talk about having a curriculum and another to know when and how it's being implemented. Knowing that we have to wear more than one hat as a school administrator. Being able to wear the hat of an evaluator and being able to wear the hat of an instructional leader and a formative supervisor is very difficult to do. In fact, there's some research that says that the principal cannot do that, but I'm of the opinion that the principal can tilt his or her hat to be able to go in and be an instructional leader and facilitate learning. It's one thing to watch a teacher teach, but it's another thing to be able to go into that classroom and know what to look for among the students, to know, do the students know and understand the objective? Are they actively manipulating the content? Are they experiencing success? Having short conversations when we go into those classrooms with students helps us to begin that conversation so that then we have conversations with teachers. The principal is there and we're coaching the principal, helping the principal learn to walk this walk of the instructional leader. But it's when we put a teacher in a reflective mode of having a conversation. The greatest gift that we give to a teacher is a gift of our time. And when we begin to talk about the art and science of effective instruction with a classroom teacher, we help principals have those conversations with teachers and help teachers to begin to think about, when did I cause academic learning time to occur with my class? When did I know that this small flexible skill group that I was teaching was in academic learning time? If it hadn't have worked, what would I have done differently? We all have to have more than one skill or tool in our toolkit. And if today's lesson didn't go really well, what could I have done to have made it better? And what will I do the next time I teach this particular lesson to make it better? So if we're going to close the achievement gap, and we're going to talk about accelerating student learning for all students, when you're talking about 85 to 95% of students reading on or above grade level, or closing that gap, it means that in the Literacy First process that we're going to be working with the leadership team and classroom teachers at looking at not only response to intervention, but we're also going to be looking at students who are on grade level, who are scoring in the satisfactory range on your state assessment, and what interventions can we take to address those students to move a greater population of achieving at the satisfactory level, of moving them into that advanced category. So when we talk about all, we mean all. We want all students to learn and grow. It happens with that leadership team. It's more effective when a building leader has the support of a central office administration. But we're working in some districts where we have some principals who are flying it alone. And if they're alone, we want to equip them with skills and tools so that they will be effective instructional leaders. The way in which the Literacy First process works is best probably thought about in incremental parts, because it is a process. It's not an event, it's a process. And we say 3 years, but we have many schools and districts that are in their 5th, 6th, and 7th year of continuing to build upon that process. Madeline Hunter used to say, you do not have to take an elephant into the classroom to introduce the color gray. Well, when we're working with leadership teams, we try to help them understand that you do not take all of these resources and all of these assessments and dump them all on the lap of every classroom teacher and every content area. But you take the process and you begin working with it over that period of time, and you're gradually building, adding skills and strategies as appropriate. We talk about differentiation, we talk about assessment-driven instruction, we talk about using data for planning, but it's one thing to go to a workshop and hear all of it, but it is another thing to have that other piece that research says is extremely essential, and that's on-site coaching and consulting. Taking what we are teaching in the workshop setting and transferring it into the classroom setting. Working with that leadership team of taking the component parts of the Literacy First process and then going back into the classroom, but going with a purpose. When we go in with a purpose and we're using formative assessment to drive instruction, and we now know that we can help instructional leaders look to see where students are. It's computerized. They can look at a class, they can have a roster, and go into a classroom to see, are students actually working in their zone of proximal development? Or do we have students trying to solve issues that are clearly over their head? If a student is given a task at a workstation or a center, and that student is not experiencing success, we know that learning is not occurring. We know that students are not practicing and reinforcing what they need. So therefore, part of our process is helping teachers understand that flexible skill groups, you teach this new concept, and when students are ready, it moves out into a center. Helping the leadership team to understand that when they go to a center and ask a student what they're doing, that they should be able the student should be able to describe to them in great detail what it is that they are doing. That is a change in the way in which we have historically planned and delivered instruction in school. We have delivered more whole group, and we still do whole group instruction, but we have small group instruction, and it begins to impact what's happening in all the classrooms, because the students are experiencing success. It's a change in the culture. It's a change in the way in which we as instructional leaders are holding one another accountable. It's a way in which classroom teachers are holding their partner teachers accountable, because we all have to understand the process of how learning occurs. If we're going to use assessment to drive instruction, then we have to know what those assessments are telling us, and what students, as a result of the assessments, what they know and what they do not know. And when we go into a classroom, we expect to see students experiencing success. Those areas where that they need an intervention, we supplied that intervention in those small instructional skill groups. It does impact the school culture. The language in the faculty lounge begins to change. We're more focused on what students are learning. We're focused on their success. We celebrate those successes. We have schools that now, instead of having a faculty meetings have become in-service meetings, where they're talking about what is it that this group of students is going to need for next week. We're cross-grouping across classrooms as teachers begin to understand that sequence of skills, and they're sharing their kids with their co-teachers to address the specific needs for both intervention and acceleration.